All right. Okay. All right. All right. Ooh, hashtag wub wub. All right. All right. Okay. I said all right. Okay. Ooh, hashtag wub wub. All right. All right. Okay. I said all right. Okay. But not like the Eminem song. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to BandLab Plus Coffee. It's time to wake up, wind up, and queue up with another excellent track. Today we've got Venom. Venom. Dum 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 dum. By LlingLling. Over on the lab. So, without further ado, to the lab. Excellent track. Over here on the lab, we've got Venom by LlingLling at LlingLling, out of Malaysia, repping 359 followers, which is truly a shame because all of her stuff is bangers. Just not a single miss on the profile when it comes to electronic music. So I think that everyone should run over there and follow LlingLling. Let's take a listen. Hashtag electronic. Hashtag trending. Trending. Amazing. Oh, we're going to ramp already. At 2 minutes and 5 seconds, this one's going to be a roller coaster. Drop the bass. Ooh. That doo doo doo. Nice reverse on that. I caught that. Dum, 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 dum. You know that's going to be one of the things I love. It's got a real 80s, like, neo-punk vibe. Like a dystopian society. Oh. Look at this waveform, too. I got something to say about that. The wubs are real. Dang. That truly was an intense roller coaster. Let's jump right into it. 2 things I love and 1 thing I want more of. Here we go. First and foremost, this track is phenomenal. And the first thing I love is the use of the toms on a drum set to create these transitions. We are coming into the track and we've got these dum dum dum. But it doesn't sound like it's pitched kicks. It sounds like toms on a drum set. Dum dum dum. And it almost sounds, this is probably not correct, but it almost sounds like they're not a normal drum set, like it's more acoustic. I know that could just be the electronic drum set, but I love how throughout the track we are utilizing the dum dum dum, and then we even flip it, bring that thing down, flip it, then reverse it, and we get the dum dum dum, which is just another way of utilizing fewer elements and making them work twice as hard to create the same kind of quality as if you're going in and going, I need a different sample, I need a different sample, I need a different drum. You can use, bands are put together of 4 people, right? You can have a band with a keyboardist, a vocalist, a keyboardist who is a vocalist, a drummer, a guitar player, and a bass player. Like, you only need 4 instruments. You can do it with less than that. But in electronic music, we typically see this use of samples or elements, this overuse of elements that really makes us go insane with trying to dial in on what's going on. If it's done well, it can be done great. But minimalism and utilizing the same elements in new and exciting ways, to me, is actually a cooler way of creating music. There was this artist that I worked with back in, was it 2020? Maybe 2021. I don't know. Time, right? Who knows? His name is Teddy Bearosaurus. And he is a phenomenal producer. And he once told me in a conversation we were having, oh yeah, right now I'm really focused on putting limitations on my music. Like, oh, you can only create a song with 6 tracks, or you can only create a song using an 8-bit format, or you can, these limitations, once you get to a certain point, you understand the rules, these limitations can really breed amazing creativity. So the first thing I love are these toms. Let me take a listen and show you what I mean. We're going to head to the drop. It's where we'll get some. There they were. Now listen for them again. Yep. And now we've heard that, so let's see what we do. Right? And then later in the track, we actually get another use of them. And I'm trying to remember what the pattern was, but it was like a tuk-a-tuk-dum-dum, right? So we got dun-dun-dum, and then we got dun-dun-dun, and then later we get tuk-a-dum-dum-dum. And so we're just utilizing this same instrument in a new and exciting way, and always as an accent, right? It never becomes part of the full production. It's an accent to the full production, which leads me to thing number 2, which is this waveform. This waveform is fantastic. And let me tell you why. A waveform doesn't always tell a perfect, or rather a correct picture of the song. But when it comes to mixing and creating your music, you have something called headroom. Long story short, 0 decibels is your ceiling. Inside the BandLab studio, you'll see a bar at the top, which kind of functions like a volume meter. You can turn things up and down. You can turn them up and down on the individual tracks, which is how we keep our headroom the way that it should be. But the main volume meter up there is for your full production. And when you see that moving up, green, good, yellow, that's good too, depending on what you're going for. You start hitting red and you hit something called unity, which is 0 decibels. When you go above that, and it's different because in the age of electronics, we have the ability to limit things and keep things the way they should be. However, most times when you go above that unity line and you're in the red, there's nowhere for you to go for mastering. There's no way to make it louder unless you just turn up the volume, which isn't really how mastering works. So when it comes to headroom, in your tracks, you always want to be aware of how loud things are in relation to other things. For instance, as a general rule, break the rules once you know them, right? Break them once you know them. But the way I was taught, as a general rule, you're going to have 3 elements in your track that come the closest to unity, to 0 decibels over everything else. You have drums, bass, and vocals. Those are the things that tend to be the loudest in a track. So what I like to do is I like to set my volume levels for those things so that when the drums, the bass, and the vocals are playing, I don't go above, let's just keep, these numbers are not like, we're playing loose with them, okay? These numbers are not rules. These numbers are general guidelines. Let's call it around -5-ish decibels. When I keep those at -5 decibels-ish, right? Everything changes when you get into production and actually doing it. But when I keep them there, I'm never coming to 0. At the loudest part of the song, I'm never going past -5 decibels. And what that means is when I add in all my other stuff, let's say I've got a drum kit and I want that to be the loudest thing on the track. And let's say I leave that at -5. Okay, well, now I have a drum kit at -5. So if I want that to be the loudest, how loud do I want the bass to be in relation to the drums? Well, if the drums are going to be the loudest, I'll take my bass to -5 and then I'll dial it back just a little bit to make sure the drums are still the loudest, but then the bass is the next loudest. And once my elements are all in place and I'm moving things around, I keep listening to how loud things are in relation to other things. In my chorus, do my strings overpower my vocal? I need to dial those back a little bit, right? All of this to say that big meter at the top, your track's decibel meter, you never want to hit unity, because when you go to use BandLab's free mastering, which you should be doing on every track, it's free. Do it every revision, every time. It has nowhere to go. But if you're at -5-ish on your song, or -3, or just leave room, then it has the ability to limit and EQ your track in the mastering process and actually make it louder. So just because you're mixing at a more quiet level does not mean your track is not capable of being loud. Now, crazy rabbit trail, I know, but I try to incorporate some learning elements to these videos. That to say, this thing number 2, this waveform here, you rarely ever see it top out. Rarely ever. And the cool thing about that is there is nothing quiet about this track. That's what's so great about it. No one is pushing the bass and making it, super gritty and topping out the amp. Like, no one is doing that. In the mixing stage, LlingLling is not coming in here going, this must be super loud, right? She's letting her leveling of all the elements in the track. They go exactly where they need to be. She's leaving a little bit of room at the top. And then once everything gets mastered, it gets limited and brought up. And once it's brought up, those things that you thought maybe were quiet actually become loud because her elements are so well placed and mixed together. Everything is cohesive. It creates one track. So if there is just one big takeaway from that whole rabbit trail, it's don't mix your track so that it's busting through red on the meter in BandLab, and mix everything in relation to everything else, starting out with what you want to be the loudest in your song and make that loudest element sit where it should. Yellows, probably on that big volume meter. And then once that loudest element is in place, you can ask yourself, what should be the second loudest thing? What should be the third loudest thing? All the way down. And that is how you mix something cohesive together, by putting everything in its place, based first on volume and then panning. And there's so much more you can go from there. So keep an eye on your volumes. Don't hit unity. Let mastering do that for you, because mastering is going to bring everything up, at least in BandLab. Mastering is going to bring everything up to unity, to 0. So leave it some room to do its job. You will actually get a louder track with less or no, depending on how well you mixed it, distortion. That is the second thing I love about this track. It mastered beautifully on this waveform, and it's super dynamic. So the first thing I love is the toms. Dum, 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 dum. The second thing I love is the waveform itself, because it speaks to an ability to organize and create tracks that are cohesive. The one thing I think I want more of here is, I think that this 2-minute track could be a 2:45 track, and I want a breakdown. So right here, we have a lull, which is great, but I think when I say a breakdown, I think I want more of a stadium anthem echoed out. Something like that. So almost like a danger siren because this does feel so dystopian to me. I just want some kind of breakdown that is almost like an acapella with the wubs. Wub, wub, wub. If that makes any sense. That's kind of what I want. And I think that would sound cool. Otherwise, this track is baller. 2 minutes well spent. We're going to add that to the iVibe playlist because iVibe. Chicka-chow. Boom. So everyone should make sure that they head on over to BandLab and follow LlingLling. Always putting out quality stuff. And, while you're over there, you should follow DJTatious on YouTube, BandLab, or wherever you choose to consume your social media. In the meantime, I hope your Wednesday is a happy one. And thank you for waking up and drinking coffee with me. Until next time, we'll see ya.